Okay, so we are looking to create a personality theory which can accurately measure who a person is, their personality, and boil it down to the essence of the person. What makes that person themselves? Now, what an amazingly difficult and complex task this seems to be, and yet, as you're going to find out, it's not really. Okay, so we're going to start with the idea that I referred to in the previous video, which is the idea that measurements of human beings that are taken as snapshots, single points, will fail to capture the essence of a person. They will simply capture the essence of a behavior in a given situation, or their emotion, or a state of being, or something, but it is just one. And the idea of trying to capture a person's personality by filming them for their entire life and then analyzing this is an insanity. Nobody is going to ever do that, and it wouldn't even net the essence of the person even then. So what would? I measured that if you can come up with qualities that are tipping point based in a person, that you can measure them very easily and very accurately. And it's very similar to measuring the outcome of a coin toss. When you toss a coin and the coin lands, it's either heads or tails. How certain are you of that outcome? 100%. It's either heads or it's tails. There's not like partially heads and partially tails. It turns out that if you use the essential qualities that make a human being, and if you design these qualities to be tipping point based, that you can measure them as accurately as the outcome of a coin toss. Okay, so now let me just briefly name the qualities that we're going to be using, and there are 5 of them. The first quality I call mind-body orientation. And please skip the New Agey inferences from this. This is a completely measurable scientific quality in human nature. And it can be very rapidly determined by simply altering the speed at which you speak to somebody. And so it turns out that half of the people in the world prefer a more rapid sequence of words. These people are in part noble because when they aren't understood, they speed up and they say more words more quickly. The opposite group of people, the opposite of the side of the coin, are people who prefer words spoken more slowly. And when these people are trying to get their point across and struggling, they slow down and very rapidly lose their words. And basically their minds go blank, especially if the person they're trying to get to hear them is the opposite. They're using more words. Okay, so these 2 groups. One is mind first, the person who processes life first through their mind, and this person prefers a faster rate at which they process life. And should somebody speak too slowly for them, it literally drives them out of their mind and into their body. It's uncomfortable. The other group I call body first. So they process life first through their body, and if you slow down your words to a moderate pace, not to nothing, but a moderate pace, these people actually the words come into focus for them similarly to the way that you would tune in a radio station to a lower frequency, and as you tune it in, it would become clearer. In effect, human beings have 2 radio broadcast and transmit frequencies, a higher one and a lower one. The mind has a higher one. It's not impeded by any physical things, and the body has a lower one, a slower one. And this difference, mind first or body first, is a huge quality in personality. Anyway, we'll look at that. The next quality I call character type. And character type is briefly when you feel needs, when you feel neediness, when you feel something inside yourself, where is that need? Where does that need exist? Is it your own needs, me, my needs, or is it other people's needs out there, your needs? So again, we see that this is a tipping point based measure because you cannot simultaneously look at yourself or your own needs and simultaneously look at other people's needs. You're either looking at your own needs, the needs are coming from you, or you're looking out at the world, the needs are the needs of others. Your needs or the needs of others. A tipping point based measure. Character type actually has 4 variations of those 2 patterns. Character types 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those numbers roughly equate to the year of life in which they develop, the first year of life, the second, the third, or the fourth. So here we have the character type which develops between birth and finalizes roughly around age 4. Okay, the next quality, here we have how quickly or slowly do you process life, and we have the thing you're processing is neediness. Whose needs are you sensing? Your own needs or the needs of others. That's character type. The next is social priorities, which is what kind of needs are these needs? And there are 4 broad categories of needs. And we each have a prioritization of these 4 needs, which turns out to be there are actually 24 sequences from the 4 qualities. And the 4 qualities are comfort, which roughly equates to sensation, neatness or organization, which roughly equates to how we arrange the things we sense, understanding, which roughly equates to what is the meaning of the things that we have sensed, and freedom, which is the state in which we no longer need, we're free of the need to sense, to know what we're sensing, to arrange those things, or to understand those things. So 4 qualities: comfort, neatness, understanding, and freedom. And we each have those 4 qualities in a certain order. These are the kinds of categories of need. For instance, if I feel needy and I have comfort as my first priority, maybe if the room is too hot or too cold and I am at a lecture, I won't be able to hear the speaker. I'll be so distracted by my need to be more comfortable. Or if I have neatness as my upper social priority, I might make a mistake in my writing in my notebook at that lecture and then be distracted by how I've made a cross out or a scratch out, or I've missed something, or the order's incorrect. That might be distracting. And if it is understanding, then I might be there, and if the lecturer is not really articulate enough for me to understand, or if it's a topic that's so complex that I can't understand it, then I will be distracted by my inability to understand that thing. And finally, if I have freedom as my first quality, I might be looking at the clock a lot of the time and thinking to myself, when am I out of here? I don't want to do any of this. Comfort, neatness, understanding, and freedom. We all have all 4, but we all have one at the top of the heap, and when we don't have it, we get needy. We become distracted. Okay. Mind-body orientation, the speed at which we process life. Character type, who has needs? Me, I have needs, or you have needs? What kind of needs are they? Are they the need for comfort, the need for neatness, the need for understanding, or the need for freedom? Okay. The next quality, the 4th quality, is called decision trees. And again, there are 4 kinds of decision making, and we all use all 4, but we have a priority. And so some people, the quality that they start with is, I call, precision. And so they try and zoom in and see in fine detail the thing they're trying to, the need they're trying to resolve. So do they zoom in on the temperature in the room by looking at the thermostat? That would be precision. Do they look to rearrange things? They might rearrange themselves in the room so that they're closer to an open window. Do they need to understand whatever is precisely. And so they're really like analyzing why they feel so hot or so cold. And if it's freedom, then the precise point of that may be that they simply are looking for the best moment to leave. Okay, so precision, zooming in, seeing the detail. That's one way that the mind, the body, the person, looks to make a decision about resolving the neediness. Okay, the next one is correction, which is, okay, it's precise, but then you look and you notice, oh, it's not completely precise. So you look to refine what you are doing, like those four things, like you look again at the thermostat, or you move your chair a little closer to the window, or you up your timetable for leaving. Okay, so you make a correction. The third quality used in decision making is digression, and the word itself usually has a negative meaning, saying that you're not staying on topic. But quite honestly, if you can only look at a single dot on a page, or a single word, or a single page, or a single picture, then you never get the big picture. You only get this precise, zoomed-in version. And so digression actually has the positive quality of zooming back out, of going through a larger exploration to try and see what other things are at play here. Okay, and the last quality is bluntness, which is, okay, I'm done with this. This is too much. My brain is breaking and I have to take a break. I have to get out of here. So you bluntly detach from what's going on. So decision trees, 4 qualities that are used in decision making: precision, correction, digression, and bluntness. And as overwhelming as this is, there is one more quality of the 5 qualities, and the final quality is gender identity. And this has nothing to do with whether you are male or female per se. Gender is something that exists in plugs and wall sockets, and the prongs and the holes. And so when you are putting a plug into a wall socket, the plug itself is the assertive side of this event, and the socket is the receptive side. Assertive and receptive, moving out, moving in, pair of opposites again. And so in gender identity, there are 4 qualities, another set of 4 qualities, which are the 4 possible ways that areas that gender is expressed. And what is gender exactly? And in this use of it, since we have started out with who has needs, are you sensing your own needs or the needs of others, character type? What kind of needs are they? Are they the need for comfort, neatness, understanding, or freedom? How are you going to decide to meet these needs? Are you going to use precision, correction, digression, and bluntness? And the last quality, gender, has to do with the direction and degree of force that you use to meet these needs. That's actually what gender is. It's not just something about boys and girls. And there are plenty of girls who are assertive and plenty of boys who are receptive. And so that quality falls apart when you really look at what gender is. So in this case, there are 4 areas in which we are either assertive or receptive, and it tips to one side or the other. And so the 4 areas are in the way you express yourself physically, in the way that you express yourself socially, in the way that you express yourself psychologically, and in the way that you express yourself sexually. There are 4 different qualities, and in each of them, somebody is either tips toward assertive or receptive. For instance, if we were to take the one that's most associated with gender, sexuality, every couple that I have ever sat with, and I have talked about gender identity, every one of them laugh, because there is one of those people, generally, who is the assertive one in sex, the initiator, you might say, and there is somebody who is the receptive person. And they definitely aren't always the male is assertive and the female is receptive. It's frequently the other way. And in fact, in couples where it's a gay relationship, two men or two women, there are always one of the people is assertive in a sexual sense and one is receptive in a sexual sense. Generally, it tips. It averages to one pile or the other, like the coin toss. Okay, so this is a lot of material, a whole lot of material. And if necessary, go back, rewind and look through. But to just simply restate it before we stop, there are 5 measurable qualities in human nature, 5 general categories of measurable qualities in a person. And the first one has to do with the speed at which they process life, mind-body orientation. The second has to be whose needs do you generally sense when you sense neediness? Do you sense the needs are in yourself? Do you sense they are other people's needs? That's character type. The third one is social priorities. What kind of needs are they? The fourth is decision trees. What kind of processes are you going to use to make a decision to meet these needs? And the fifth is gender identity, which is what kind of force, how much force, and in what direction are you going to make efforts to meet these needs? 5 qualities: mind-body orientation, character type, social priorities, decision trees, gender identity. So, what makes this completely and amazingly different from any other system? The precision with which you can measure a personality. And the precision is such that out of the 7 billion people in the world, if you take the tests associated with these 5 qualities, and the tests are rather brief compared to other tests because they're tipping point based. They're not gradated, they're not scale based, they're tipping point based, they're not statistical. They're tipping point based, just like a coin toss. Once it lands, you can be certain of what the outcome is. 5 qualities put together, and so out of 7 billion people, if you take the tests, you can put yourself into a group of 160 people that are just like you as far as your core personality. 160 out of 7 billion with 100% accuracy. Quite a claim. Let's see if we can live up to it.